Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Meher Sher and these are the headlines. The U.S. is at a crossroads with vote count underway after polls close across the country. Initial counts show Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden leading the race for electoral votes against his rival Donald Trump. But Trump is leading in the battleground states of Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. Meanwhile, the race for dominance in the Senate is close with the Republicans snagging 46 seats and Democrats 44. The Afghan government says 13 Taliban fighters have been killed in an airstrike in southern Kandahar province. The defense ministry says the raid was carried out after the Taliban attacked Afghan forces posts in the Panjwai district. The Taliban have not yet commented on the claim. The number of global COVID-19 infections has topped 47 million with over 1.2 million fatalities. In Brazil, the death toll from coronavirus has crossed 160,000 with over 5.56 million infections. India has reported over 46,000 cases and 514 fatalities overnight, taking the death toll to over 8.3 million. In Pakistan, 18 people lost their lives to the virus, taking the toll to 6,867. At least 3 people have died as Hurricane Ida batters the coastline of Central American states of Nicaragua and Honduras. The Category 4 hurricane has ripped off roofs, knocked down trees and power lines, and caused floods and landslides. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says Ida struck the coast, blowing potentially devastating winds of 225 kilometers per hour. Well, those were the headlines. More news in detail after a short break. Stay. Welcome back. Now, the U.S. is at a crossroads with vote count underway after polls close across the country. Initial counts show Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden leading in the race for electoral votes against his rival, U.S. President Donald Trump. This report has more.
Millions of American voters turned out at polling stations, putting aside worries about the coronavirus pandemic and long lines. The United States is on track for its highest electoral turnout since 1908. Likely around 65% of eligible voters, as 102 million Americans have already voted before Election Day. First Lady Melania Trump voted in Palm Beach, Florida, one of the battleground states.
Mrs. Trump, how are you feeling today?
Great. Thank you.
Tell us why you voted today instead of with the president a week and a half ago.
Well, it's election day, so I wanted to come here to vote today on the election day. Thank you very much.
It will also be decided who holds the majority in the United States House of Representatives and the Senate. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has claimed Democrats will retain control of the House of Representatives as results come in.
The people who helped us win were the people who have been affected by it. Thousands of those who have been diagnosed or members of their family diagnosed with a pre-existing condition have spoken out, have told their stories, and that was the most compelling argument of all.
Speaking in Delaware, Democratic candidate Joe Biden said he is optimistic about the outcome of the election. He said he was confident that the campaign won Arizona and felt good about Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Around a dozen battleground states will decide the fate of one of the most polarizing presidential races in U.S. history. The victor of the 2020 U.S. election will head a nation strained by a pandemic, joblessness, and political divisions.
The United States is electing its 59th president, home to 50 states and 9 standard time zones. People across the country embodied versatility while casting ballots. More in the following report.
The day of reckoning has arrived for President Donald Trump and Democratic rival Joe Biden. Iconic landmarks in New York City were lit in red, white, and blue, and no American was a no-show for the 2020 presidential election. In true Texas style, voters arrived by horseback at a polling station in Houston.
I just think I'm really Black heritage is very important to me, and growing up in this area, we use our horses to go to school, we use our horses to go to the store, and why not use your horse to go vote?
In Los Angeles, voters were treated to a musical accompaniment by a mariachi band as they cast their ballots at Dodger Stadium. The band serenaded 73-year-old first-time voter Salvadora Martir as she made her choice for president.
They shouldn't treat immigrants badly, like we are worthless, because we are people too, like you. We also need help from the government.
For the first time ever, inmates at the Denver County Jail in Colorado were allowed to vote in person. In other events, rapper Kanye West cast his first ever vote in a presidential election for himself.
And moving on, the Afghan government says 13 Taliban fighters have been killed in an airstrike in southern Kandahar province. The defense ministry said the raid was carried out after the Taliban attacked Afghan forces posts in the Panjwai district. In a statement, the ministry said a large number of Taliban's weapons and ammunition was also destroyed. The Taliban have not yet commented on the claim. But a Taliban spokesperson said they have killed a number of Afghan soldiers, including a commander in the Kunduz province. He said the Taliban carried out an attack on an army base in Nawababad area of Khanabad district. Azerbaijan says its troops have forced Armenian army to retreat from frontline areas in the Tartar and Akjabedi regions. The Azeri Defense Ministry says its forces retaliated to a fresh round of attacks by Armenia on the villages in these regions. In a statement, the ministry said Azeri forces killed a number of Armenian troops. It said they also destroyed a large number of Armenian tanks, howitzers, and military trucks. The ministry added Azeri troops are monitoring the operational situation at the moment. Over 1,100 people have been killed since clashes over NAGORNO-KARABAKH region erupted on the 27th of September. And moving on, Swiss police have arrested 2 men for their possible links to the primary suspect in the deadly terror attack in Vienna. In a statement, the police confirmed that both men are Swiss citizens and were arrested in the city of Winterthur. The police said the arrests were made in coordination with the Austrian authorities. Meanwhile, at least 14 people have been arrested in Austria following the attack in central Vienna. Austrian Interior Minister Karl Nehammer has said there was no evidence of the second perpetrator so far involved in the attack. Austria has declared a 3-day national mourning after the attack that left 4 civilians dead and 22 others injured. Meanwhile, ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack without providing evidence. Meanwhile, 2 Turkish and a Palestinian are being hailed as heroes for helping save a policeman and 2 women during the gun attack in Vienna. More in the following report.
A 23-year-old Palestinian, Osama Joda, was working at a nearby restaurant when the gunmen started shooting at people in the street. Joda braved the attacker to bring the wounded police officer to an ambulance. He was assisted by 2 Turkish Austrians, Mikhail Ozin and Recep Tayyip Gültekin. Gültekin got hurt with a pellet while carrying a wounded woman to a restaurant. Though police told them to stand back for their own safety, the expats took the social responsibility to help people. The Vienna police thanked Joda by honoring him with a medal, while Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan called Ozin and Gültekin and told them to continue to help Austrians. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu has also hailed the 2 men, saying they did what a human, a Muslim, and a Turk should do.
The number of global COVID-19 infections has topped 47 million with over 1.2 million fatalities. In Brazil, the death toll from coronavirus has crossed 160,000 with over 5.56 million infections. More in the following report.
The hopes brought about by the slowing down of the virus in the summer are nowhere to be seen as winter sets in. The number of coronavirus patients in United States hospital breached about 50,000, the highest level in nearly 3 months. But over in Argentina, in a rare sign of relief, a rolling 7-day average of new cases has dipped significantly. The South American country imposed a strict lockdown in March, but as restrictions were eased, cases climbed rapidly above 1 million, with one of the highest testing positive rates in the world.
We have been very concerned to see where the horizon was. The horizon is now starting to come into sight, and that is why we have to be optimistic, and that is why we have to be calmer than ever. We have never been this close to ending the disease.
Europe has passed a bleak milestone after reporting more than 11 million coronavirus cases. In Hungary, a nighttime curfew has been imposed to curb a fast spread of coronavirus infections. Spain says a full lockdown is not off the table, but now it is not the right moment for such a drastic measure to be imposed. France has recorded 854 deaths from the virus overnight, the highest since April 15th. French health minister says one person is getting infected every 30 seconds, while every 15 minutes a COVID-19 patient arrives in the hospital.
La tension est très forte à l'hôpital.
The pressure is very high in hospitals, in the emergency rooms, in medical units, in intensive care units, in public hospitals, in private hospitals, in big metropolitan areas, and in less urban zones. We have a pressure on health system that is increasing, which reflects the pressure linked to this epidemic. On the second wave, and health workers have a lot of work, lots and lots of work, day and night.
India has reported 514 deaths in the last 24 hours, pushing the tally to over 123,000. The country's caseload has crossed 8.3 million mark as more than 46,000 people tested positive for the virus overnight. Meanwhile, a study of the lungs of people who have died from the COVID-19 virus has found persistent and extensive damage in most cases. This may help doctors understand what is behind a syndrome known as the long COVID, in which patients suffer ongoing symptoms for months.
In Indonesia, at least 161 doctors have lost their lives to COVID-19 so far. In a statement, Indonesian Medical Association said 11 doctors have died over the past week. The association's leader, Adib Khomedi, said majority fatalities came from East Java with 33 cases and Jakarta with 24. He said 73% of the deaths were reported after relaxation restrictions in high-risk provinces in July. Khomedi said the public must undergo swab tests to detect the infection at the earliest to reduce the burden on medics. Indonesia has so far reported over 418,000 cases with more than 14,000 deaths. And moving on to Pakistan, 18 people have died, while over 1,300 people tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The country's death toll has risen to 6,867, with over 337,000 cases. The health ministry said there are over 14,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said more than 315,000 patients have recovered so far. The ministry said over 147,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province. Meanwhile, Punjab has reported over 105,000 cases. In the capital of Islamabad, more than 20,000 have tested positive for the disease so far. And in Cameroon, 11 primary school teachers have been kidnapped from 2 schools in the rest of Northwest region. The school authorities say armed separatists stormed the premises in Kumbo town. Officials said gunmen initially abducted the students as well, but later released them with a warning not to go to school. The army said a search and rescue mission was underway. Armed separatists threatened to paralyze school activities in Cameroon until a ceasefire agreement is reached. This comes 10 days after gunmen stormed a school in another western town, killing at least 7 children. And more news after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now moving on with more news in detail. At least 3 people have died as Hurricane Ida batters the coastline of Central American states of Nicaragua and Honduras. The Category 4 hurricane has ripped off roofs, knocked down trees and power lines, and caused floods and landslides. In Nicaragua, state media reported 2 miners were killed by a mudslide caused by the hurricane. Meanwhile, in neighboring Honduras, the fire department confirmed the death of a youth in a landslide. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says Ida struck the coast, blowing potentially devastating winds of 225 kilometers per hour. Ida is forecast to weaken as it moves into northern Nicaragua and hit central Honduras on Thursday. Pakistan has successfully started green recovery process to tackle challenges to the economy amid the coronavirus pandemic. Thousands of people will be employed in different environmental projects as per the initiative. What are some of the contours of this program? Well, this report by our correspondent Minahil Ahmed has the details.
Worldwide, thousands have lost their livelihood due to the pandemic, and it's no different in Pakistan. But the government is striving to mitigate these impacts, giving birth to the Green Stimulus Initiative to overcome unemployment. Advisor to the Prime Minister on Climate Change, Amin Aslam, says over 80,000 people from across the country will now have jobs.
Prime Minister announced what is called the Green Stimulus Package. The Green Stimulus means that in this time of trial for everybody during the COVID era, we have created projects and we have created opportunities out of this situation so that people can do, in 3 areas. One is planting of trees and protection of forests. We are hiring people. We have already hired about 84,000 people across the provinces. They've been done by the provincial forest departments. And we want to increase it to almost 6 lakh people.
We're taking you live now to where President Donald Trump is currently speaking in Washington, D.C.
We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good. Such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. The great state of Ohio. We won Texas. Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it in the tabulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia. 2.5%, or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina. 77,000 votes with only approximately 5% left. They can't catch us. We also, if you look and you see Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get, because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters. And that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight, he said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely. And we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that obviously to stay in play. But most importantly, we're winning Pennsylvania by a tremendous amount. We're up 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania. These aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close. With 64% of the vote in, it's going to be almost impossible to catch. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. We're winning Michigan. I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes. And 65% of the voters. And we're winning Wisconsin. So we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added, I spoke with the really wonderful governor of Texas just a little while ago, and Greg Abbott, he said, congratulations. He called me to congratulate me on winning Texas. I mean, we won Texas. I don't think they finished quite the tabulation, but there's no way. And it was almost complete, but he congratulated me. Then he said, by the way, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this. Can I tell you what? Nobody has. So we won by 107,000 votes with 81% of the vote. That's Michigan. So when you take those three states in particular, and you take all of the others, I mean, we have so many, we had such a big night. You just take a look at all of these states that we've won tonight, and then you take a look at the kind of margins that we've won about. And all of a sudden, it's not like we're up 12 votes and we have 60% left. We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these announcers saying, what happened? And then they said, oh, because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newton? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were going to send out tens of millions of ballots. I said exactly, because either they were going to win, or if they didn't win, they'll take us to court. So Florida was a tremendous victory. 370. Ohio, a tremendous state, a big state. I love Ohio. We won by 8.1%. Almost 500,000 votes. North Carolina, big victory with North Carolina. And so we won there. We lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment. And we will win this. And we, as far as I'm concerned, we already have won. That worked with us, and Mr. Vice President, say a few words, please.
I want to join you in thanking more than 60 million Americans who have already cast their vote for 4 more years for President Donald Trump. While most continue to be counted. We're going to remain vigilant, as the President said. The right to vote has been at the center of our democracy since the founding of this nation, and we're going to protect the integrity of the vote. But I really believe with all of my heart, with the extraordinary margins, Mr. President, that you've inspired in the states that you just described, and the way that you launched this movement across the country to make America great again, I truly do believe, as you do, that we are on the road to victory and we will make America great again.
That was President Donald Trump speaking to supporters in the White House. He was expressing confidence in winning the presidential election, especially after winning few key battleground states. He said that he will be going to the Supreme Court to contest the voting process, and he said the voting process was a fraud on the American people. And now moving on, the stock market debut by the Chinese tech giant Ant Group has been halted after its Shanghai listing was suspended. Shanghai authorities said changes in the financial technology regulatory environment led to the suspension. The listing was due to go ahead in Shanghai and Hong Kong on Thursday. Ant Group, backed by billionaire Jack Ma, was set to sell shares worth about $34.4 billion. Ant runs Alipay, where cash, checks, and credit cards have long been eclipsed by e-payment devices and apps. Alipay says the total volume of payments on its platforms in China for the year ending in June was $17.6 trillion. And now it's time to take a look at the latest weather updates from around the world. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.